Hello and welcome back to the OneClimate channel, broadcasting here live from Copenhagen Climate Conference. I'm delighted to have David Hein with me here from the UK's Met Office. We're going to be exploring some of the science of climate change and also perhaps discussing a little bit of the politics behind that science. David, thanks very much for joining us. My first question today will actually is going to be based on a newspaper article that I've just found in the UK press. I don't know if we can bring it up on the screen. I've got it here. It's from a tabloid journal, a tabloid newspaper called the Daily Express. It says climate change is natural, 100 reasons why, which was a somewhat alarming thing to read, given the number of people here. And the first assertion is that there's no real scientific proof that the current warming is caused by the rise of greenhouse gases from man's activity. Which I thought, who could I ask this question to today? And I'm afraid that you're the kind of the preferred option. So, how would the Met Office respond to that, do you think?
Well, I'll do my best. That's a pretty tough question. I would say, first of all, that there is natural climate variability in the sense that the climate undergoes periods of shifts of change where there's cooler phases and warmer phases. This is outside of greenhouse gases. A lot of the skeptic groups would attribute the rise in temperature that we've seen in the past 40 years to a natural activity, solely a natural activity. The second half of the question was about 100 reasons why, and sorry, what was the first one?
No real scientific proof was that it's man-made, was there?
Well, that's just ridiculous. I mean, you have to have some standard of what constitutes proof. I mean, there's been scientific research into this for 30 years. All the best climate scientists in the world contributing their research to the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change fourth assessment report and multiple journals. As far as there's also evidence based on how the climate has already changed. Things that we're seeing in the Arctic, in changes to glaciers and wildlife, habitat destruction. And the other thing is that the climate models, which are reliable, are able to replicate the climate of the recent past only if the greenhouse gas values, the concentrations, are included. If they are excluded, then the temperatures that the models produce are much lower than what we've actually seen. I hope that's my answer.
Yeah, no, there's just to explain to our viewers the basic kind of the principles behind this. There's increasing CO2 put into the atmosphere, and there's concern that if it hits certain levels, we're going to expect to see catastrophic changes. Could you kind of give a broad overview of kind of the processes that are in play here, the kind of processes behind this change?
Okay. Well, I suppose that at the fundamental level, it has to do with greenhouse gases in the atmosphere. Greenhouse gases being carbon dioxide, which is a famous one, but also methane, and even water vapor is the most common greenhouse gas. And as the levels of greenhouse gases increased due to human activities, then the temperatures will increase because the incoming solar energy is trapped at the surface. And as the concentration levels of these gases increase over time, the temperatures are expected to increase. Now, there's a lot more to it than that. Changes in land use can have positive feedbacks on this. For instance, take the Arctic for an example. The energy that's coming into the Arctic, a lot of it is reflected back into space off of the ice because the ice is a reflective surface. As the ice melts, less of the energy is reflected back into space, and it creates a feedback where it intensifies the warming. The same can be said of forests being cut down. Burning of trees creates soot in the atmosphere, which acts to absorb the heat. In any case, I could keep going, but there are lots of different factors, and human beings, through their actions, are exacerbating the effects.
Thanks. I've got Anuradha Bhattachy with me here, my colleague, and she's been monitoring some of the questions coming in via oneclimate.net and also Twitter. Anuradha, what have you come up with?
Well, there are an awful lot on the general Twitter feed which are sadly echoing the same as the tabloid press. There seems to be this, a lot of tweeting going on, just being in denial. But on OneClimate, there is a slightly more intelligent question. Somebody says, do you think that we can win the climate debate with science? Excuse me. Or do you feel that it will have to be won at an emotional level?
So, will science be sufficient to win this debate, or does it have to be won on an emotional level?
I suppose I could only offer my personal opinion to answer that. I would say that the science is enough to inform the people making the decisions, but the scientists, those who are making the policy, have a responsibility to inform members of the public about what they're doing and why they're doing it. It can't be just using lots of fancy-sounding words and saying, trust us. We need to explain, and I think it's something that we could do better. It's a hard thing to do, to communicate an issue with scientific accuracy and to try to explain it in a way that also doesn't water it down. Does that answer the question?
And so I can't kind of conduct this interview without referring to the ClimateGate scandal, and in terms of people's emotional understanding of climate change as well, perhaps that's had quite a significant impact, shaken confidence in the science. Newspapers have picked up on it, especially in the US. There's been a lot of coverage. Whilst the consensus here certainly seems to be amongst scientists, this doesn't really affect the fundamental science that we have. Do you think that it's going to make it more difficult to kind of communicate your message to populations around the world?
Certainly, it's not something that we're happy about. And the reason that we're not happy about it is that it's being taken out of context. It's being treated as a smoking gun to disprove climate change science, but it's anything but. It's clear to me from reading that it's a very small selection of the emails that are being taken out of context and misinterpreted according to an advocacy position, namely a climate change skeptical attitude. The important thing to remember here is that there are several independent data sets that all establish the same trend of increasing warming. And if you read the whole set of emails, you see that there's far from a conspiracy, that what you see is healthy scientific debate. Now, some of the things were regrettable, sure, but scientists are human beings as well. One of the positive upshots of this, I think, is that there's a push to release the raw data, which the Met Office are doing. We have to gain permission from the institutes around the world who've donated their data because they consider it intellectual property. So once we get permission from the various institutes, then we'll publish the full data set as well as the model code.